You always knew there was something hidden. It wasn't visible to the casual observer. It wasn't written in easy phrases. It was a thick silence, a weight that seemed to breathe in every space he walked through. Have you ever noticed how some presences carry a shadow, even when the face smiles? That was the case with him. Seemingly whole, socially acceptable, even admired. But inside, drowned in pains that no one dared to name, and you in some way always felt that Li Feng, as if something inside him was screaming in silence, a cry for help without words, a gaze that pleaded, "See beyond the surface." But the world doesn't notice. The world runs, judges, comments, consumes, and those who bleed inside learn to dress in strength. He did that for years, and the most cruel part wasn't the pain itself, it was the isolation, the feeling of being invisible, even while surrounded. You understand that, don't you? That experience of being among many, yet feeling alone. He knew how to speak, but he preferred silence. He knew how to cry, but he swallowed every tear. He knew how to ask for help, but he got used to being quiet. Because at some point he realized that no one was really listening. And here is where the most painful part begins. The deeper the hole, the stronger he appeared. The closer he got to death, the more he seemed to smile. This is the most perverse trick of hidden pain. It disguises itself as normality. Have you ever noticed this in someone? Tell a friend, a brother, a colleague, someone who seemed okay but who was really drowning in silence. If this has happened, comment, "I needed to hear this." Now pay attention. What I'm going to tell you may dismantle the way you see the people around you. He didn't lose himself suddenly. It wasn't a sudden collapse. It was a slow, almost invisible process of internal wear. Every time his pain was ignored, a piece of him faded away. Every time he went unnoticed, he drifted further away from his own life. Do you think people die only when their hearts stop? No. They start to die much earlier, when they stop being seen, when they lose the right to exist in someone else's gaze. And that's exactly what happened to him. He died in silence before he truly died. He drowned in invisible sorrows, and no one noticed how much the weight had already surpassed the limit. Can you imagine the despair of carrying an ocean inside your chest with no one to share it with? That was the hell he lived in. And maybe it's the hell you felt too. Hidden pain doesn't ask for permission. It invades, occupies, and destroys from within. And when it finally reveals itself, the damage seems irreversible. But here lies a secret. Something that changes everything. Something that can save lives. Perhaps yours. You need to realize what no one taught you to see. The hidden pain isn't just his, it's a mirror. It's also yours on some level. Because you felt the weight of not being heard. You've experienced the loneliness of having to be strong all the time. And maybe that's what connects you to him the most right now. It's not about death itself. It's about what precedes death. It's about the silence that kills before the last breath. He didn't scream, he didn't knock on anyone's door, but his body spoke. His gestures revealed everything. His absence, even when present, was already a scream. And you know this because you felt the same, that sensation of being there, and, at the same time, not being there. The world doesn't notice because the world doesn't know how to listen, but you can. If you choose to open your perception, if you decide to stop living on autopilot, amidst the noise and distractions. Think with me. How many people do you pass by each day? How many smiles do you see without noticing how forced they are? How many "I'm fine" have you believed, even knowing it wasn't true? He was a master at this, an expert at seeming whole, but inside he was already shattered. And do you know what's even crueler? People prefer to believe in the disguise, because truly seeing requires courage, and courage is rare. If you had noticed earlier, would you have done something different? Or would you have acted like everyone else, protecting yourself from the uncomfortable truth? Here's the revelation that cuts like a blade. It wasn't just him who got lost. Everyone around him failed too, not out of malice, but from distraction, from fear of seeing, from lack of perception. And that's why this story isn't just about him. It's about you, about me, about all of us. It's about the silent responsibility to see beyond the obvious. The hidden pain isn't a detail, it's a warning. It's a sign asking for immediate attention. And yet almost no one listens. If this has made sense to you so far, write, "Yes." I want to know if you're with me on this journey. Now listen carefully. He believed that his existence wouldn't matter. Can you imagine the weight of that? Living with the conviction that if he disappeared, no one would really notice. It's like carrying a daily sentence. And no one should endure something like that alone, but he endured, until there was no more strength, until his life became a burden heavier than his own breath. And then, silence turned into an end. But his end isn't just his, it's also a beginning for you. A call, a mirror that forces you to decide, will you continue ignoring the signs? Or will you open your eyes to see those who are drowning near you? You need to understand that life doesn't always scream at high volume. Sometimes life whispers. Sometimes it only leaves subtle marks, noticeable only to those who choose to look deeply. He was one of those living signs, a walking scar, a breathing body, but whose soul was already tired of waiting for rescue. And here's the part that no one likes to admit. Most only realize when it's too late, when the body no longer breathes, when the space has turned into absence, when memory becomes the only form of contact. But before that, there were details, small details that gave things away, glances lost in the void, silences that weighed more than words. A gradual, almost imperceptible distancing that few had the courage to name. Have you ever gone through this? Have you ever lost someone and then thought, how did I not see it before? If that question has ever torn at your heart, comment, I've felt that. It's hard to admit, but it's necessary. He carried pains that didn't arise overnight. They were built up in layers. Layers of rejection, of misunderstanding, of overwhelming expectations. Layers of loneliness amidst the crowd. Layers that accumulated until they suffocated his ability to believe it was still worth it. And you know how it works. It doesn't take an immediate tragedy, just a build-up of small neglects, words that went unspoken, gestures that were never offered, moments when someone could have noticed, but didn't. This is the invisible wound, dying slowly from a lack of presence. And this is where the truth becomes even more uncomfortable. He didn't simply choose to give up. He was led to it, led by indifference, led by others' silence, led by the lack of awareness from those who were close. Have you noticed how the entire world talks about success, achievements, goals, but almost never speaks about real pain? It's as if we've all been trained to hide, and it was in that training that he got lost. But there's something you need to engrave in your mind right now. What happened to him could be happening next to you at this very moment. Maybe to someone you love. Maybe to someone you hardly notice but who crosses your life every day. Maybe even to yourself. This is the urgency of the message. It's not just about looking back. It's about opening your eyes now, training your perception to see the invisible, not waiting for silence to turn into death. Because in the end, the question isn't just, why did he drown in pain? The question is, how many more are drowning that you haven't noticed yet? You realize now that his silence wasn't empty. It was a language you may have unintentionally ignored, a language the whole world insists on failing to learn. He didn't need perfect sentences. He didn't want magical solutions. All he wanted was to be seen, to be recognized as someone who existed beyond the mask. But who dares to really see? Who confronts the discomfort of a bleeding soul? Almost no one, and that's why so many die in silence. The truth is that you were taught to protect yourself, to smile when it hurts, to say I'm fine when you're in pieces, and he did exactly that. He learned to survive by hiding, until hiding stopped being survival and became death. Now think with me. How many men do you know who carry pain without ever confessing? How many pretend to be strong because they believe that showing weakness would be the same as failing? It's an invisible prison built by social norms, by fears, by judgments, and he was incarcerated in that prison until his last breath. Have you noticed how people only value the truth after they've lost it? He became more remembered in death than in life, more loved in absence than in presence, and that is cruel, because it proves that perception always arrives late. But there's still a reason for you to be reading this now. It's not to mourn his end, it's to recognize the urgency of the present, to train yourself to see today, before it's too late for someone around you. If this thought has already stirred something in you, write in the comments. It makes sense. I want to feel if your perception has begun to open. Listen carefully. He believed he didn't deserve to take up space, and so he began to shrink, until he faded away. But you cannot repeat this. You cannot shrink until you disappear, and you can't let others around you do the same. There comes a moment when life cries out for help, and sometimes that moment lasts only a few seconds. A glance, an interrupted gesture, a silence that stretches on too long. It's in that moment that someone needs to be awake to notice. Are you awake? Or are you still numbing yourself, believing that everything is normal, that no one suffers that much? Because if that's the case, you risk losing again and again until absence becomes a routine. He was a reminder, a silent scream that we need to wake up. And if you've made it this far, it's because that scream also resonates within you. There's something you need to accept. His pain was not just individual, it was collective. It revealed the failure of everyone around who failed to see. It exposed the failure of a world that prefers to ignore the invisible. And as much as it hurts to admit, this is also your responsibility. Not because you caused it, but because now you know. And those who know can no longer pretend they didn't see. He carried burdens that did not belong to him. Expectations, judgments, comparisons. And every time he tried to breathe, he was suffocated by the silence of others, until he believed that the only way out was to disappear. Have you noticed how cruel it is to live in a world where being vulnerable is forbidden? He noticed early. He learned that crying was a sign of weakness, that asking for help was shameful, that showing pain was risking rejection. And so he learned to be silent, to silence himself until he lost his own voice. You've done that too, haven't you? You've held so much inside that it felt impossible to explode, but also impossible to bear. That experience connects you to him more than you realize. And here lies a secret. Hidden pain can be interrupted. It can be disarmed, but only if someone has the courage to look with truth. Do you know what it means to look with truth? It's seeing beyond the mask. It's perceiving beyond the words. It's feeling the weight that others can't translate into words. It's having enough presence for someone to trust you enough not to need to hide. But for that, you need to break your own masks. Because those who pretend they're okay will never notice when someone else is crumbling. Perception comes from the courage to be real, to accept your own pain so you can touch someone else's pain. He didn't have anyone to do that for him, and because of that he sank. But you don't need to repeat that cycle. You can become a presence for someone. You can prevent someone else's silence from ending in death. And maybe that's exactly what life is telling you right now, that you were chosen to notice what no one else sees, to see the invisible, to rescue those who are still hidden. If this message resonates deep within you, comment, "I'm waking up." I want to see if your consciousness has already opened, because in the end it's not just about him, it's about all of us, and especially you, about how willing you are to wake up before it's too late again. Now that you've come this far, there's something inevitable. You can't go back to the way things were before. Your perception has been expanded. You can no longer pretend you don't know, nor hide behind the excuse of distraction. He didn't die just because he was carrying pain. He died because the world around him didn't know how to perceive it. And that truth weighs heavily, because it shows that every absence is also a reflection of our collective blindness. How many more will you let go unnoticed? How many tired gazes will you continue to ignore? How many false "I'm okays" will you accept as if they were real? You need to decide if you will live like everyone else, anesthetized, waiting for death to awaken your consciousness too late, or if you will live awake, choosing to perceive before silence becomes the end. He's no longer here to tell his own story, but you are. And perhaps his mission was exactly this, to wake you up through his pain. Because when someone leaves, the impact is not just loss, it's also a call to action. You feel it deep inside you, don't you? A weight, an unease, a desire to prevent this from happening again. That's your awareness coming to life. And if you ignore it, life will demand your attention again in different ways. Listen, it's no coincidence that you're reading these words right now. It's a scheduled meeting, a silent summons for you to become the difference that was missing in his life. After all, how many times have you considered giving up? How many times have you thought that no one would notice if you just disappeared? You know the pain that brings. And precisely because you know you carry the ability to prevent others from sinking into the same void. But feeling compassion isn't enough. You have to take action. You have to be present. You have to learn to perceive. And perceiving is more than just looking. To perceive is to listen beyond words. It's noticing when the smile doesn't match the eyes. It's feeling the weight of silence. It's offering space for the other to exist without needing to pretend. You have that responsibility now, and also that power. If this truth has resonated deep in your heart, write in the comments, "I needed to wake up." I want to see who is truly committed to ensuring no one else gets lost in silence. But let me tell you something even deeper. This story doesn't end here. What happened to him is just the tip of the iceberg, because there's an origin that no one likes to confront. A silent root that creates this pattern of death disguised as life. And in the next video, I will reveal that origin before you. If this video moved you, the next one will move you even more. Don't miss it. Click here and continue with me.